Well, happy Wednesday, friends! I'm so excited because tonight Elizabeth is sharing with you. So I know, it's so amazing. So what I'm going to ask you to do is what I always ask you to do when we have someone up here speaking, is to take the next 10 minutes to put your phones down, put them away, and give Elizabeth your full attention. She has an amazing message that she has prepared for you. I've heard it a couple times. You are not going to want to miss any part of it. So please, for the next 10 minutes, give your focus up front. Can you do that for Elizabeth? Yes. The middle schoolers told me they couldn't do it for me, but they could for Elizabeth because they love her so much. So, Elizabeth, it's all you.
Okay, I'm going to be reading you a poem called The Dash that my dad read to us on Christmas morning this year. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from beginning to end. He noted that first came the date of birth, and he spoke of the following date with tears. He said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years, for the dash represented all the time that they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. Be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read, with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? So there are so many people in my life that are continuing to live out their dash, and they have made a huge impact on my life and on so many others. I want to do my best to live out my dash, and my dad and my grandma are very big influences to me on how I want to lead my life, and so I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. When my dad was 17, he lost his older brother David in a car accident, and that has really shaped the way he's lived his life. So the picture on the screen here is a picture of my Uncle David, my dad's brother. And my dad is also a living donor. He donated one of his kidneys to a stranger in 2003. My dad said if David had been dying because he needed an organ instead of being in a car accident, and somebody did that for us, just think of how different our lives would have been. So the picture on the screen now is a picture of my dad. He's the one lying down. That's my dad, and the man next to him is the one he gave his kidney to. His name's Scott. He will stop at any car crash he can. One of the more recent crashes, he ended up taking a mom and a baby home from Granby, Missouri to their home near Lawrence, and he'll go out in snowstorms to help find people. One time he found a few kids that had crashed on an icy bridge and were standing on the side of the road. He got them to move right before another car crashed into where the kids had been standing. One night, he was taking a new route home from working on an inner city church coffee house in the winter, and he stumbled upon a man in a wheelchair, in the rain, in the mud, at 1 a.m. He was able to get him out and safe, and that was the first and only time he'd taken that route. He will help get troubled people counseling, help elderly people get their homes ready for winter. He used to carry around a 40-pound trauma kit in his truck just in case he needed to use it. He always has a large flashlight, reflective vest, fire extinguisher, and many other things in his truck, just in case he needs to use them. He did EMT training so that he would know how to best help injured people. He has been to Haiti and Malawi on many mission trips. He's done countless fundraisers for people in need. My grandma, my dad's mom, is a very empathetic person and uplifts people constantly. They both help people not for the credit or the recognition, but because it's the right thing to do. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. My grandma has made about 53 blood donations, and that's over 6.5 gallons of blood. She has had many people stay in her home, including 4 foster kids. She has counseled thousands of people who have lost their children, and she does it to make her son David proud when she sees him again in heaven. She's a very humble person, and you may not know all that she does. for everybody in her life. My dad and my grandma will do just about anything for anyone if they need it, and I can only try to be a little bit more like them. Occasionally, I'll give a person experiencing homelessness some food, or make friends with a homeless man named Joel outside of Target, which I've since been told many times is not the smartest thing. But I do it because I care about people. I do it because how I live out my dash matters to me. And I'm sure you all have heard of the Good Samaritan, but let's read it together. A legal expert stood up to test Jesus. "Teacher," he said, "what must I do to gain eternal life?" Jesus replied, "What was written in the law? How do you interpret it?" He responded, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But the legal expert wanted to prove that he was right. So he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" But Jesus replied, "A man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. He encountered thieves who stripped him naked, beat him up, and left him near death. Now it just so happened that a priest was going down the same road. When he saw the injured man, he crossed over to the other side of the road and went on his way. Likewise, a Levite came to that spot and saw the injured man and crossed over to the other side of the road and went on his way. A Samaritan who was on a journey came to where the man was, but when he saw him, he was moved with compassion. The Samaritan went to him, bandaged his wounds, tending them with oil and wine. Then he placed the wounded man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day, he took 2 full days' worth of wages and gave them to the innkeeper. He said, "Take care of him, and when I return, I will pay you back for any additional costs." What do you think? Which one of these 3 men was a neighbor to the man who encountered the thieves? The legal expert said, "The one who demonstrated mercy towards him." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." The Good Samaritan to me is like my family. Lots of people pass up helping somebody. Sometimes we may think somebody else will come along or somebody else will do it for us, but that doesn't always happen. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. Imagine nobody stopped for the injured man. What would have happened to him? He would have been there for a while and likely would have died. Instead, somebody came along and helped him get to a safe place. The Good Samaritan showed empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share feelings of another. Sometimes I find it hard to be empathetic because it can be difficult to overcome selfishness. I try my best to be an empathetic person, however, I still struggle to constantly live that way. It can be difficult. I think empathy is a choice. It is something that you learn to do, and it's something that doesn't always come easily. You have to acquire it. You have to recognize when somebody is in need, and that is something you just have to learn. It is important to be aware and sensitive to other people. Kindness is similar to a ripple. When you throw a rock into a pond, it just keeps going and going and going. The same thing happens when you show empathy to others. You may never know what small act of kindness can do for somebody and how far it will go. I learned how to be empathetic by watching my dad and my grandma live it out every day. My dad says being a good Samaritan is a mindset. You always have to be mentally ready, mentally wanting to help, and it is easy to get consumed in the craziness of life. So being empathetic has to be a priority. You have to figure out how to have the mindset, and you'll learn it over time. So who is your Good Samaritan? Who is somebody who will help you when you drop something, or help you with homework, or help you clean up a mess? Not only someone who will help, but someone who expects nothing in return. The Good Samaritan didn't expect his money back, he didn't expect credit for what he did, and he didn't even expect thank you. The Good Samaritan used his dash not to hurry through life, but to slow down and help the people that he saw were in need. My dad and my grandma used their dash in that same way as the Good Samaritan, and I hope to do the same and choose empathy. A great way to help and serve people is through mission trips. It is a great opportunity to see and experience so many different things while also making an impact on so many lives. So my question for you is, how can you make your dash meaningful? What can you do to have empathy for somebody, and who is your Good Samaritan? Thank you.